Right. What was your ugly point?
Yeah, my ugly point is that I'm gonna keep this kind of brief, but it's kind of ugly just because it's more like just how I feel and how I react to things like this. Where basically I saw a handful of like the major is like the epitome of this, where basically everybody is just like dogpiling on every person that gets invited, whether that's positive or negative, and there's like even sometimes like some pretty scornful things being said in these replies and these comments, and you kind of like what basically I see some talent that get on the defensive about this stuff, and I really feel like that's just feeding into empowering these sort of troll commenters.
They love it. Yeah, they love that shit.
They want to feel like you're responding to them because and they're goading a reaction out of you. So I just kind of like put this out there. Like, I appreciate my fans, and I appreciate people that are fans of our work, but I also don't like let them change my mindset or mood for the day too much either way, in either direction. I think it's important that you don't give them too much credence on positive or the negative, because once you start to do that, like, your mental can get affected. And I've scrolled through comment sections before. I've read my replies and stuff like that. Like, I don't say I ignore it, but I also just like, you kind of have to have a level of detachment or separation from it, because if you don't, then you just let your whole day get ruined by like 7 people that say something negative as opposed to the 15 or 20 that said something positive. Like, hopefully the numbers are probably bigger when it's the major, but you know what I mean? It's just like there's no way that I'm gonna let a comment section dictate my mood. And I think that this is why it's just ugly, because it's just like there's no, don't like saying stuff like that, like saying stuff. I'm not going to single people out, but I've seen it in like every esport at this point, where basically talent will be like, oh, these comment sections hurt me or something like that. It's like, grow the fuck up. Stop reading comment sections if they hurt you. Like, it's the internet. You can just turn off your laptop. You're like, just close your fucking phone.
Here's the thing. Normally, Hawker, I always let the guest go straight after, but I want to get in on this one first, because I have one thing to say, which is a bit similar to Maui Snake. I once made a video like this, but the problem is, this is the hardest thing about making all the videos I have, is it's really hard to remember the titles of the videos. So sometimes I can't actually find my own videos, because people don't know there's over 1,000 Thorin thoughts alone. So like, unfortunately, unless I can sort of vaguely guess, like, it's just gone, boys. The joke is I've actually drowned out my own content with signal noise, like using more of my own content. So it's retarded, I know. But basically, there was a video I once did, which was something like, it might have been called something like Reddit in its proper use, or like its place or something. And the premise I tried to explain was, I actually tried to just think from the perspective of an average fan. Like, if I was just a random fan of, say, Astralis or something, and I didn't have any connection to the pro scene of esports or comments, and I was just a fan on Reddit, HLTV, Twitter, like all the rest of them are. And I thought to myself, well, where am I supposed to give my opinion? Because if I give my opinion on Reddit, then I'm a hater. If I give my opinion on Twitter, I'm a hater. If I give my opinion on HLTV, I'm an idiot and a hater. It's like, but that is the place for my opinion, though. Actually, the other way around, if I reverse it, why are all the talent going into that HLTV? Like, when the head thread is like, Thorin fans, come here. Why do you come there? Why do you click it? Like, it's only going to be bad.
Has that ever done you?
You know what I mean? There's nothing going to be good in there, is there? Like, and also, like I say, basically what I realized is this. In sports, this is the case. Like in American sports, for example, Hawker, the famous place that supposedly they discuss sports is in the black community. They do it in the barber shop. Everyone goes to the barber shop, and while you're all waiting in the queue for the barber to give you your cut, you just, like, there'll be a TV on with sports on, and you discuss whatever, like LeBron versus Michael Jordan, or some fucking shit in the UFC probably now, I assume, or whatever sports they're into still. And basically, that's like the area. That's the equivalent of Reddit. Like, by the way, there'll be a guy in there who's also like, LeBron is a fucking shit, or whatever. There'll be the guy who has like the ridiculous take as well. Then there'll also be the fanboy. No, it has to be Michael Jordan. He used to go his airness or whatever. There'll be the fanboy in the stand. But the point is, that's their place to do it. And my analogy is always like this. Be a bit fucked up if religiously LeBron James every day after work just drove over to that barbershop and then sat lurking in a back room where they didn't know he was there, just like with a glass on the wall and going, I can't fucking believe they're saying that about me. They are haters. They're fucking haters. It's like, this is ruining my life. Every day I have to come here. You'd actually start to go like, LeBron is just, you having trouble at home or something, mate? This is getting dark, mate. Because I agree. And listen, I have a problem with myself because if I read it, obviously it affects me. But I agree with you. Some of the responsibility has to come down on us, and especially this one, which is here's the one I actually think the talent, and I'm going to loop it back into this topic, are actually fucked in the head. You know when they always say, and even my friends, my closest friends, all say this. They all say, guys, you don't have to put someone else down to say that I'm good. It's a thread about who they should hire for the tournament, bro. Where the fuck else is that guy supposed to say, I think they should have hired Hawker instead of Maui Snake? He's not supposed to in that setting just go, I actually prefer Hawker, but Maui Snake is good, so I have no opinion. That is exactly the place for him to say, I specifically want Hawker over Maui because I think Hawker's better. That is, by the way, that's totally appropriate. The real question, like we're saying, is maybe if you're Maui Snake in this analogy, maybe it ain't the right time to go on that thread. You know what I mean? Like read the room. Like if I was Semler, for example, I would never open any of those it goes out saying, right? It's nothing good waiting for you in there. It hasn't secretly turned around overnight, and they're actually like, I sort of love that Semler guy. He knows his story. He knows that ship sailed. Reddit's over. So that's just one thing I always get annoyed at, because you know they always say that line, like, guys, you don't have to put them down. It's like, that is actually sort of the point of what they're doing, though. Like, what you're sort of saying is just don't make any comments in that scenario. Like, okay. I mean,
otherwise, literally every single talent member ever would just get hired, and you just have a talent list full of everyone. If you couldn't say this person should be there instead of this person, that's how it would go. I do like the barbershop analogy quickly because, like, it's almost like having LeBron go in there and listen to it is part of it. But also, I thought you were going to go with LeBron would go into the barbershop and then, like, argue for himself, like, why he's the best.
I mean, people do that as well, which is also wild, isn't it?
Sometimes they do reply. And, I've always just been of the opinion, like, it's easy to say compared to when you're actually in that moment. But it's just like, I'm looking into this thread. You do it sometimes. Why would I like take this person's opinion so seriously, right? It's like some people aren't going to like you. Like that's just how it is. Some people are going to like you. It's also dangerous, I think, to fully go into the other side where you look fully at the positive comments, because that also is going to just feed into yourself. So it's like you can't really take much of either. You should probably just try and take stuff from people you know and respect, especially because it's like it's anonymous people, right? Like, who are the people that you know in your real life that are like going into comment threads and leaving these comments? I don't think that I know anyone who really does that, right? And the people that do it are probably to an extent trying to get some sort of reaction.
Yeah. Oh, and also if they are your hate, you're never going to turn them around anyway. Like I've always thought, like I notice he doesn't do it anymore, probably because of the last couple of years, but Anders was the most famous ever for that. Even back in like 2015, Anders would go in the thread about how Anders is washed or whatever, because even back then they used to say the same shit, don't worry boys. And even back then they used to go, just a shit human reaction. Oh my God, what are you doing? Or whatever his fucking catchphrase is. Like, that was the same fucking criticism like 7 years ago, even though, by the way, he did it about equally as much as he does now, just every now and then. It's just that spoiler, you've heard him cast 1 billion games, you idiot. Guess what? You also say loads of constructive parts. You also set up your sentences where you say a placeholder and then say what you think. It's not I'm not a weirdo for going, here's the thing, Rich. You also have 1 million blind spots in your communication. You're just not watching yourself for 10,000 fucking hours, are you morons? Like, you're just fucking chilling in a bar going like. Like, guess what? That's annoying. The point is 20,000 people aren't watching you. So anyway, when Anders would go in there, though, was the worst, because he would always go in and he would take like, because he could tell he was trying to be like shrewd. He would take like the most sort of like laid back Socratic method approach, where he'd just sort of be like, oh, it's interesting you say that, because what exactly is there a game that's in mind that you're thinking that I was not doing the good commentary in, because I'd really be interested to grow and learn and discuss this with you. And he's acting like that person, just some random hate, like Anders fucking sucks, all he says in human reactions. He's acting like that guy's actually going to go, well, actually, I'm glad you asked Anders, because actually it was the second map of the series between Heat and, like, no one's ever going to do that ever, right? Like in that scenario, Anders, like it's a waste of time, mate. You just been, and also I'll just say this, Anders, what actually happened to Socrates? A mob killed him, you idiot. That, like, listen, it didn't work out for the OG that was trying that method. They murdered him, mate. They're going to make you drink hemlock. Although, here's the thing. This is where I wish this was a different era of Mouse Nick, because I could tie the edgiest joke in that right now, but whatever. We'll just leave it as it is. We'll leave it as it is.
I think I'll say this, that it can be valuable to try to judge and gauge of the general overall vibe that people are getting from your work, and if that's positive, cool. If it's negative, then I think actually giving it maybe a little bit of effort and actually trying to understand why people think you're boring or you're saying shit or like your understanding is bad. If that's kind of like what people keep saying and a group, there's a little bit of a hive mind mentality where people will just say shit that other people say, but there's also like there's a little bit of credence to why they're saying it. And I think trying to be self-reflective enough to understand why a mob would say that you suck in some semi-generic but specific enough way is worth analyzing your own work and trying to like better yourself, because sometimes it can be difficult in this industry to be self-reflective enough to know what you should improve on next, but you can get hints from the general public. And so like, but being able to read that and not just getting into your own feelings, getting emotional about them just saying it is important too.
Oh, by the way, I totally agree with that point. You can also, if you're a pro, you can like interpret like the real actual criticism in what they say. As in, like if they say like you're boring, what they really mean is like something about what you're doing doesn't capture their attention or they don't vibe with your personality. Like you can actually take like a proper. Essentially, you have to sort of more on it. You have to make it not stupid and make it into what like polite. Because half the problem, by the way, with all these topics that we're talking about to do with feedback is just the tone and the way that the people communicate with you. They don't ever. There's no such thing as like basic common decency or politeness on the internet. That's the problem. Essentially. So half the people I block, for example, that say like, you just blocked me because I disagreed with you. It's like, no, you disagreed with me like a mega obnoxious way that made me not want to communicate with you. That's it. It wasn't your opinion, by the way. Like, guess what? I'm not scared that someone has the opinion Zeru's number one. The point is, if your opinion's like, oh, you just suck Simple's dick though, don't you? Like, that's not a disagreement. You're just obnoxious, aren't you? Like,
even in good faith.
You know, just don't want that convo, do it? It's shit. And I don't know how many of these people don't get that. Like, there's so many young guys. Because here's the sad thing. There's one thing if it's a pure hater. If they're just getting a reaction or they're just trying to make you feel bad, you can see who that guy is quickly. But some of them you actually realise don't even know they're being obnoxious.
I know.
They really think, by the way, that we're just all censoring them and we're not letting them speak. So clearly they want to be part of these convos. They want to have like discussions and debates. They just don't, what they don't realise is the initial sort of like how you get someone to have that with you. And by the way, when they do that angle where they go, yeah, well, you're not like that. I don't have to be. I spent 20 years building up my rep and I create the fucking conversations. You aren't in that position. You're just a random guy messaging us. Like, you haven't, believe it or not, that, you know, that stupid Reddit comment you see a million times, like, Thorin said this and you're all upvoted. When I said it was down. Yeah, because you're nobody. You're Joe Schmo, fucking nobody, on a random thread and you got downvoted. The reason people are upvoted is not because it's right, it's because they are interested that I said it or this player said it. Like, that carries obviously inherent interest, right? Because there's a backstory. So, yeah, I've always found that feckless as fuck, mate. It's so stupid, isn't it?
That reminds me of just reading, like, Reddit NBA comments where basically someone's like, hey, but when I said this 7 days ago, no one cared. And it's like, because no one fucking read what you wrote, dude. Like, you have no
they'll be comparing it
at all.
Exactly, they'll be comparing it to like LeBron James says this guy's the next best player. Like, but when I said it though, no one cared. It's like,
no, I know.
The clues that you said it when you said it exactly. Yeah, the clue's that, mate. That's the clue. Right. Okay. The last one, my ugly point. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.